Welcome, everyone, to the Last Gasp Fantasy Sports Podcast, coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World Studio here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors, located at Celebration Point here in Gainesville, Florida. I'm TJ. This is Brad. We're back at it again on Sunday morning here. We're off next week, Brad, because it's Christmas, but, we can't be more excited to be in here talking football and fantasy with this crazy week we got, dude.
This has been a crazy week with all the COVID issues and the games being moved and everything. Hopefully everybody's keeping up to date with that. I did send a message out on Facebook. Yep. Get your players in time. We do have some Tuesday games this week. It's going to be an interesting week.
It's going to be an absolute nightmare for some people. If you're out of the playoffs right now, you're sad you didn't make it. But when you're in it right now, it's going to be trying to keep up with all these changes. And who knows what's going to happen if they get fully canceled? I don't know, man.
And if you have Jonathan Taylor, he's already played, so you don't have to worry about him getting COVID right now. So that's a good thing for them.
Oh, yeah. If you have Chiefs guys, they went nuts on Thursday night. They did well. First I want to thank our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company, Paisano Stone-Fired Pizza, Door-to-Door Transport, Gibson Truck World, Viking Companies, for all of their continued support of the show. And we just couldn't do it without them, Brad. So it's just really great for them. Also, you can find us at lastgasfantasy at .com or lastgasfantasy@gmail.com. You can send us in those requests during the week. Send it in any time. Also, find us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We are live. Send us those questions in. This is the big week. I've got a few questions I'm going to be asking you, Brad, finding out whether or not what player should start between my three wide receivers and flex positions. So it's great. Send them in. Everybody needs help once in a while.
Yeah, send in questions for this week. If you got questions already for next week, you can send those in. We can try to get to those answers too.
Yep.
But you can also send them in during the week, and we will be watching Facebook during the week and answering the questions, even though we won't be live next week.
Yeah, and to continue with that, Brad, we had a game Thursday night. We had a game Saturday night. There were supposed to be two games Saturday night. They moved one of the games to Monday night. So now you've got games today, Sunday. Then you've got two games Monday and two games Tuesday, right?
Yes.
That's the tentative schedule now?
Yes. And then we start over on Thursday.
And then we restart Thursday. So
I love football like this.
This is wild. So when you see it like this, it's just great. Make sure you follow those lineups. Make sure you're checking who's playing, who's out. Like OBJ came back off the COVID list. So how does that affect the wide receivers on that team and things like that for LA?
Yeah, and then Michael Carter's coming off of the IR, and he's going to be playing this week. Supposed to be a big role in the Jets' offense.
Yeah. We talked about it. You messaged me, and he goes, "Should we start Michael Carter as a Jets guy?" And I was like, "I wouldn't start anybody on the Jets," but that's just me, So, but it's great, So, get them in. We appreciate all your support. We see the likes and stuff on Facebook going up, and the people that call me and talk to me about this and are finding out about it now, Brad. It's absolutely great. I've had a lot of friends and family and people just off walking by saying, "Oh, you're doing this. We've loved it. We've turned it on. We've catched it." So, we really do appreciate all that love and support, and we can't do it without you and couldn't do it without with everybody here. So, Brad, let's get into it. Start recapping last week's games and going on with the show, man.
Yeah. Okay, let's start it out. The Vikings beat the Steelers 36-28.
Yep.
Deny a last play pass in the end zone.
And that was a crazy game, Brad. Did you watch that game,
Yes,
or did you just do the follow-up on? Because I recapped that a little bit, and I really wasn't paying attention to it because it was 29-0, and I was like, man, the Steelers are just bad. I was like, this game's over now. And next thing I know, the Steelers are going down to try to score and tie.
Tie the game, yeah.
And is that the one where Claypool's dancing on the first down, and he's in the middle of the field dancing on a first down when they're trying to eat up clock? They're trying to. It was wild.
Dalvin Cook just ran all over Pittsburgh's defense, though. He had 205 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Great game for Dalvin Cook. And
Brad, you're right. That was some of the question last week of was he going to play?
Right.
And we were nervous about his shoulder. We were nervous about him being healthy, and he looked like a fresh horse out of the stables that has been taken off 4 or 5 weeks, and he was just raring to go.
No, it was a great play. You had Harris, Najee Harris, and he played a great second half game too.
Yep.
I think both of you guys got points in that game.
Oh, big time. I think we're in the 20-25 range, if not more than that. It's very often that you see a coach from the other side. So when you see Mike Tomlin go wow on a running back that just dominates, and so it's wild though that the Vikings almost gave that up too. Though I just can't. It was a great game.
Yeah, it was a denying the touchdown pass in the end zone. Is what saved the game.
And that was a great throw, and he almost caught that. Freiermuth it was in his hands, but it was great defensive backs there and safeties that actually knocked that ball out because that was going to go to probably overtime like 2 or 3 other games did this week.
This next statement's kind of funny. The Falcons stay hot on the road, and they beat the Panthers. I mean, a good win, 29-21. Matt Ryan threw for 190 yards and a touchdown. Walker returned an interception of Cam Newton's for 66 yards and a touchdown. And the Falcons improved to 6-2 away from home, which is a good away standings. It's like I said, it's kind of funny saying the Falcons hot, but they are hot when they're a visiting team.
No, I mean it's, they've stayed under the radar a little bit in the NFC, and they're slowly right in the middle of the pack over there. And if you're not careful, they might sneak into a playoff position at the very end there. I mean, I don't see them anywhere near the division lead or getting in there, but if they can get in that 7 spot, there's a potential there.
Yeah, if they can roll out the next 4 victories, they're there.
And that's the thing. I think they have all the things in front of them that need to be figured out. Brad, and that's what's crazy about them is that if you had asked me that months ago, I'd be like, "There's no way they make the playoffs." But now they're sitting at 6-7, or I think it was 7-7 right there. So it's a wild game, man.
The Browns hold off the Ravens 24-22. Now Lamar did get hurt in this game, so that probably did change the factor in the outcome of this game. And we got to keep an eye on Lamar if he's going to be playing, this week, next week in these playoffs. But the Browns won a very important game for them.
So Brad, just recap right back there. I looked up what Atlanta was. They're tied for the 7th spot right now.
Yes,
in the playoffs. That's 6-7. It's Washington, Minnesota, the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Saints all are 6-7 right now in the playoff hunt. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I would have never guessed at the beginning of the year if they went 1-5 or something like that.
And you just mentioned the Saints, and the Saints started off the year with a big win over Green Bay. Started off hot. They've lost all their quarterbacks. They're down to Taysom Hill now.
Yep.
But they're right in the hunt too, making the playoffs. It's a tight race down for that playoff.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the Browns, beat the Ravens, and the Ravens lose Lamar Jackson, and Hundley came in and he threw it to Mark Andrews every time. So I'm hoping he does it again this week after my decision on Thursday night. Needless to say, Cleveland needed this win.
They did, and
with all the, I feel like between Cleveland and the New York Giants, they're always in the media some way. They're always there. Jaguars, like the worst teams, seem to always be in the middle of the media. They're always getting scrutinized, whether it's Baker Mayfield or off the field issues or whatever it is. But now the Baltimore's just fallen off of everything, and that division's wide open.
And like you said, Cleveland needed this win. I mean, now they're going into this week's game with Mayfield on COVID.
Half the roster, you mean?
Half the roster's on COVID. I mean, it sounds like Nick Chubb's going to have to run the ball. Case was going to be their quarterback.
Yeah.
He got COVID. So I think the next quarterback up was Mellums or something like that. And
go to the 4th-string guy and bring him off the street and see what he can do.
I think it's just better put Chubb in shotgun and let him run the ball.
They're going to run wing team with all 3 running backs they got there? No, that's great, man. I do believe that's what they'll end up doing. I mean, but it's going to be an interesting play out with that. I mean,
that's another game that got delayed to Tuesday, right?
That's the one that got delayed till Tuesday.
So that game, these guys have a chance to get the 2 positive or the 2 negative COVID tests and get back on the field, and that's why they pushed it to Tuesday. So you got to keep an eye on those players and see which ones will be playing in that game.
Yeah, no, that is the one of the games. So just to recap right now, because you brought it up, Brad, it's a good idea. So the Monday night games are Las Vegas at Cleveland.
Okay, so that's a Monday night game.
That's a Monday night game. And then Minnesota at Chicago. So one's at 5 p.m., the other one's at 8:15. The Tuesday night games are Seattle at Los Angeles and Washington at Philly, and those are both at 7 o'clock. And so everything else is on today's games with the normal times. They got the bunch of games at 1 and then the 4 and then the 8 o'clock game. But, yeah, so those were the games. Of course, you had the game last night where, New England and Indianapolis and stuff like that, and the game Thursday, Cincinnati. So
it's a long week of games this week.
Yep. Oh, I love it.
Titans dominate the Jags. No surprise there. The only surprise to some people is the Jags now do not have a coach, or they have one, but it was not their head coach they started the season with.
The only thing I do say about that, I don't like to get into negative and stuff around here, but it's tough being a Jags fan. You get the number 1 pick, you get a good player in there, you get a potential QB changing, franchise-changing quarterback who could carry you a lot of ways, and he's thrown more passes to the other team than he has to his team this year. But it's when your coach gets fired halfway through, and they fired him for cause, which is you don't see that very often in anywhere. Is that, hey, you got fired because you did something wrong as the head coach of a football team? And I guess when you kick kickers in the legs, that's really going to do it to you.
Yeah, there's a news article out, and like I said, we don't talk about the negatives.
Yeah.
There was an incident between him and Trevor Lawrence, and there's another incident between him and somebody else that has brought up the cause case. But so let's get back on the Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, can he be developed into an NFL quarterback next season?
He's a guy that I think has the full accolades and potential to be a stud player. I think it would have been better for him to be able to come behind somebody for a year or two and understand the way you have to read and do your due diligence with defenses and seeing how they'll drop safeties and how linebackers will push the line, but then do that soft coverage as the tight end's coming across or throwing out routes and things like that. The game's just so much different than what he was playing at Clemson that I think he needs 2 to 3 years to be a good, solid starting quarterback.
At the beginning of the year, he was coming in with the rookie running back out of Clemson as well.
Yeah, Travis Etienne, yep.
Yep, and they're supposed to be the team duel that already knew each other and stuff like that. He gets hurt before the season starts, doesn't get to play with Trevor this season. Is that a big, lift next year when he's back and they're together, or just things happen?
Yeah.
And who's going to be the coach? I mean, Byron Leftwich, we mentioned out of Tampa, possibly coming over to Jacksonville. I think that would be a great fit for him and great fit for Trevor Lawrence, being Byron's a ex-quarterback, knows the game as a quarterback, offensive coordinator right now over in Tampa.
Well, that's the thing.
Couple years called great games.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too is that from a fantasy standpoint, you can't have anybody on Jacksonville right now.
Right.
You shouldn't have anybody on the Jacksonville Jaguars playing in your fantasy football playoffs right now, and that's hard to say. Even bad teams have one player that's doing something or doing this. They don't even have a running back that's doing well. I mean, even James Robbins was not even getting points. I mean, he's all over the field, but he's not even doing well. And so it's tough from a standpoint that you have an NFL team and no fantasy players being started from that team.
Yeah, I mean, I have been playing one of their wide receivers.
Yeah.
He's been decent for me, Chenault.
Yeah, Chenault.
Jr.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's tough playing a Jaguar right now.
Especially when you see him get 0 points. Like that kicker's not even getting a point there.
I know. If you can't score, the kicker can't either.
That's right. I see you got Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City blow up Vegas 48-9. It's still. They have everything in front of them, and they are just walking away with the AFC right now. I think they're the best team in the AFC right now.
Well, this is 6 in a row for them.
Yep.
They've turned it around. Patrick's been found, and things are really moving the right direction for them.
Yeah. No, they've really done well, and they won again Thursday night.
They won again Thursday night, so now they're 7 in a row. They beat Vegas, and I think that's when things changed. Not this Vegas.
The first one, yeah.
Things turned around, and they found what they were missing.
and they won Thursday night. That I thought a game that they were destined to lose that game all the way to the end, and then score that late touchdown, come back, and then win in overtime on the first drive, and just beat them.
You know what's changed? I mean, everybody's saying Patrick Mahomes, he's getting better and all that kind of stuff. No, the Kansas City defense has stepped up.
Yep. That's what's really carried them to some wins right now, Brad.
The Saints end a 5-game losing streak with a 30-9 victory over the Jets. It's not saying a whole lot.
It's not saying a lot with the Jets, but it's a great win though.
Russell Wilson has 2 touchdown passes, and the Seahawks beat the Texans 33-13. I'm glad to see Russell get a victory.
Yep.
Again, it is against Houston, which I believe the Jaguars play Houston this week, right?
That is the game. Jaguars and Houston.
And we got a new coach in Jags. I would love to see them come out and beat Houston.
I picked Houston all the way. I think Houston. Who knows? You never know in this NFL league. I mean, there's teams beating people that I didn't think would beat people. There's teams winning here and there's winning here. I mean, you got last night's New England's on a 6-game win streak, 7-game win streak, and they get beat by Indy at home in Indy, and Indy looks strong. They put a late comeback there at the end, but Indy beats them, and now they're in a playoff hunt. It's just great. It's great football. It's great for fantasy owners. I mean, you have people all over the board. I'm going to talk about that in some of the recap with the players and things that I'm proud of this week with them. But it's wild, Brad.
Well, Dallas jumped out to a big lead on Sunday and then had to hold on because Washington started coming back, and Dallas holds on 27-20. Pretty much ties up the division for them. But
yeah, I mean you're right, man. They look strong, and I don't know what happened to them in the second half.
Yeah,
did they stop doing something, Brad, or what did they do?
They stopped playing defense, and Washington came back.
Right, No, right now I want to thank our sponsor, Archer Electric Services Company. They're bringing you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs to Gainesville and surrounding communities. Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza. Whether you're looking for a quick lunch or a dinner destination to meet up with friends and family, Paisano's is your place. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with delicious dishes, whether in our dining room or yours. Also, Gibson Truck World, located in Sanford, Florida. Go check them out. Brad just got a new truck, so it's awesome for him, man. He switched up, so go check out Gibson Truck World in Sanford, Florida. They're a great group of guys down there and gals that work in that area. Also, we're here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors and Weeby Marketing for all the support and the production of this show. So can't thank them enough, Brad, and go check them out on our webpage and our Facebook pages.
Continue on real quick. Denver over Detroit, 38-10. The Chargers beat the Giants, 37-21.
Yep.
And then probably the game of the week was Tampa-Buffalo.
Yep.
Tom Brady throws a game-winning touchdown in overtime to fend off Buffalo's comeback attempt at 33-27. It's another one. Tampa jumped out to a pretty big lead in the first half, and then Josh Allen starts.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo ran the ball 7 times total in the whole game.
Well, it's Brad. It's funny you say that was your game of the week. It was my surprise game of the week, and as the one I recapped and was picking that, the Bucs were in control of that whole game, and I turned it on in the fourth quarter and I start watching, and we've talked about it not just with Buffalo or these good teams like Green Bay and everybody else. When they want to score, they can score at will. These teams are able to move the ball whenever they want to, and why they don't play with that same kind of pizzazz or gumption or whatever you want to call it, to do that every quarter and every time they touch the ball, that they only seem to want to be able to do it in the last 5 minutes of a game, is beyond me. Because if Buffalo would have played the way that they did the first 40 minutes of the game instead of the last 15 minutes of the game or 20 minutes of the game, they would have won that game. Yeah. And yet they don't. It goes into overtime. They tie it up. You give the ball to Tampa. What is he going to do to you?
He's going to win the game.
He's going to win the game, and he did it. He did a little crossing route across the middle, and he takes it to the house.
Well, and that's the question I got. Buffalo gets the ball to open up overtime. They go 3 and out, but it's 4th down and I want to say 3 or something like that, and they choose to punt it back to Tom Brady and give the ball to Tom Brady to have the opportunity to win the game. What decision is that? I mean, at this point, don't you try to get those couple yards and keep the ball in your hand and let Josh Allen do what he did in the second half of the game?
No, Brad, you're right. There's 3 guys that I probably would never give the ball to like that. Rodgers is up there, Patty Mahomes, and Tom Brady. I mean, if you give them the ball, they're going to beat you. Like, I don't care if there's 10 seconds left on the clock or there's an hour left on the clock. If they're going to beat you, they're going to beat you, and I would never get them. Brad, we got a couple questions coming in on Facebook or YouTube. Do you sit or start? Who do you start between Gronk and Pitts this week?
Okay, this is a great question.
Right.
But I'm going Gronk because Gronk's come back. He's shown it, and he showed it last year in the playoffs too. When Gronk and Tom Brady are hooking up, it's unstoppable. And Leonard Fournette is starting to run the ball very well in Tampa right now. It's going to open up that passing game for Tom, and without Antonio Brown back, Gronk's going to be.
See, I like. The thing about Gronk and Tom is when the game is on the line, the first person he looks to is Gronk. Just like with the Chiefs on Thursday night. Kelsey had 9 points through the first 59 minutes of that game, and he's put up 41 in my league in the last minute in overtime because he goes to his safety blanket. And if that's a close game, Gronk's going to be the one that gets it. I like Pitts in this situation, though. I think Pitts is going to have a monster game. I think with now Atlanta in a playoff spot, they need to score and they need to be active. And so I think Carterell Patterson has a big game, and I think Pitts has a big game, and I think they do very well today. So I don't think you can hurt with either start. I take Pitts. Brad takes Gronk on that one.
Yeah, again, Falcons hot is an interesting comment, but Falcons are hot right now. Now, is this game Atlanta's back at home right now, aren't they?
Let me check real quick. But yeah, I don't think. Don't know if they're back at home or not. I can find out in one second. But anyway,
we'll look it up and everything. I agree with you, TJ. You probably can't go wrong in this thing. But Tom Brady, Gronk, end zone is a TD.
Right, and so you've got the Bucs are at home against the Saints, and then you have the Falcons are at the 49ers.
Oh, they're away.
Yeah, they're at 49ers. So it's an interesting pick there, Brad. There's also, I mean, you can't really go wrong.
Can't go wrong in that
You
one.
go Gronk, I go Pitts. We'll see how that plays out next week. In a must-win week, should I start Terry McLaurin for the Washington football team is another question we got, Brad.
Okay, but the question, in a must-win week, aren't we in the playoffs?
Well, it could be like mine. You know, I got a double playoff week. So last week I won by 4 points in my league, but it didn't matter because it combines to this week. So, you know, McLaurin didn't do very well at all last week.
Yeah, I know.
And Washington football team has struggled, but they played Dallas. Dallas's defense was pretty tough last week. You know,
They're playing Philadelphia this week.
Yep.
And Washington has everything to play for and nothing to lose.
Yeah. I mean, who are your other wide receivers? I'd like to know. It's like, who are your other options to start? Because he's been on like we talked about, and I didn't follow our rules last week. Is that you keep who you drafted and you start who you have. I did not do that, and it bit me in the butt this week. But if you drafted him and you want him to be there, you got to start him.
Yeah, and that like I said last week, that is my rule when it gets to the playoffs. If you drafted this player, and even though he hasn't done what you want him to do this year, it's crunch time for these teams.
Yeah.
Your stars will rise to the top.
Yep. So, you know, that was the game of the week, Brad. The performance players of the week that I had here, and this is kind of one that I want to touch base a little bit. You mentioned Delvin Cook was a monster week, had 27 carries, 205 yards, and 2 TDs. Great week for him coming back. But other guys that I wanted to mention was Hunter Renfrow.
Yes.
They only scored 9 points against the Chiefs. He had 13 catches, 117 yards, and a TD. He had a great week for fantasy owners. And the other 3, there's other 5 players. I had so many players this week. If you were fantasy in the football and it was the playoffs, it was a great week for all of us, Brad. We were able to listen and talk, and scores were up. You had Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, George Kittle, all had over 10 catches, all over 100 yards, all had multiple TDs or a TD if that. They put up 20 and 30 points in each league. Also, you had Melvin Gordon and Rashad Penny that both just absolutely destroyed their defenses. And so it's great for all teams that you've got players like this in this part of the year absolutely carrying the load.
Yeah, and Penny's one of those guys that, wasn't a starter.
Yep.
He ended up having 16 carries for 137 yards last week.
Yep.
It's a great play. He's supposed to be another great play this week.
Yep.
So
I had a buddy ask me, should I start Penny or who was the other name that he had? But anyway, I said I just didn't trust Penny until I went and looked up the stats, and I was like, man, wow, he actually had a great week last week, and he's the only one running the ball right now for Seattle, and so I think he went with Penny starting, so it's going to be an interesting way there, Brad.
Yeah, the other guy that's just going crazy right now is Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, top 5 receiver right now.
Yes, so he's got over 1,000 receiving yards already entering last Sunday's game. So he's just been on fire.
Yeah, it's one of those guys that I didn't think was going to be a top-notch receiver when he first came into the league, but he's done very well in the 49ers out there, and he has just really, really blossomed in that offense, and it's just been a stud for fantasy owners all year.
He has 29 carries for 236 yards. He's averaging 8.4 yards a carry. So
you can't be mad about that, man. Brad, the other thing I wanted to go into was disappointments. Who were your biggest disappointments of the week and how they were? It's got to be the Bills, Ravens, and Steelers. It's got to be. I wanted to say all of the AFC, but I didn't want to loop it in because the Dolphins and New England have been really playing well. The Chiefs have been playing well, but on these 3 teams, 2 of them I thought were 100% playoff teams, and I thought they were going to get in, and they're lost 2 straight, 3 straight. All of them I think have done that, and they just are starting to fall back a little bit and giving a lot of hope for the Dolphins and Colts. And with the Colts winning last night, I was waiting to talk about this today, it's great to see them back in the hunt. I mean, this is what's happening here with these teams falling off, Brad.
Yeah, and Buffalo's too good of a team not to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're about not to be in the playoffs.
You want to know they're tied for the 7th spot right now.
Right.
With the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Denver Broncos. And that's who it is right now. And so that's
going to be a tough fight.
Right now, you got Kansas City at 10-4 at the top. You have Tennessee Titans at 9-4, which I'd be surprised if they don't win that division either. As much as I want to say they're going to be there, I believe they'll lose 2 of their last 4 games or 3 of their last 4.
We talked about that 2 weeks ago that, is Tennessee going to win their division?
Right.
They have an easy schedule going out here, but I agree with you. They possibly could lose 2 of these games.
Yeah, but didn't they lose last week when they had an easy scheduled game? It's like they're just not playing well right now. And I mean, it's hard to say that at 9-4 that I don't think they're a playoff team, but they're the second seed in the AFC. They've done that for something, you know.
Well, that shows you how much that offense runs through Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it really does. And so, that was my disappointment of the week, Brad. I just, I really just thought that those teams should have been a little bit better and have been able to develop a little bit more and do some things like that, man. So we're going to recap a little bit, Brad. Who would you start? I got a question here between Van Jefferson, Devontae Parker, or Russell Gage. And those are the three wide receivers. One is for, L.A., the other one's for Atlanta, the other one is for Miami.
Yeah. And we briefly talked about this, and Waddle's out over in Miami.
Yep.
Tua's going to be looking for someone, and Parker's coming back. I think Devontae Parker's going to be a good hookup for Tua, and I think you're going to see Waddle's attempts go to Parker.
Yeah.
So I would probably be looking Parker edging over Gage.
Yeah, I think that's who I would go with too, Brad. I think Gage has come up a little bit there. He's had 10 points the last 3 or 4 weeks. Van Jefferson has had, I think, 20, 16, 14 on the respectively for fantasy points, but he's boom or bust with touchdown. If he gets a touchdown, it's a great day for you. If he doesn't, and so Parker just came back last week, had a pretty good week. He's coming back off of the injury. He didn't play for a little while. Tua's got to throw the ball to somebody.
Yes.
And if Waddle's out, you got to think that opens the door for Parker for sure.
Yeah, because Waddle was the number one receiver down in Miami. I have him on my team. He's been doing great numbers. He's getting 10, 12, 13 targets a game, and those targets have got to go somewhere.
Yeah, they've got to go somewhere. And so when you think about that, it's really, really interesting to see where they're going and how they're doing. So, and you got to think Miami is on fire right now, Brad.
Yeah, Miami is making the playoffs as of right now.
Yeah, they're 6-7. They're 6-7 on the year. They play the Jets this week. Mm-hmm. It's at home. This is, I say, a must-win game, but it shouldn't be a must-win. They should just win this game.
Yeah,
they're not a bad team right now. They should win this game.
This should be a win for them.
Right, and so to think about that, their last loss was to Jacksonville.
See,
in London,
and we talked about this too. If Jacksonville keeps Miami out of the playoffs, what a sad situation.
Oh, it's great. It's absolutely great, man. And so I don't know whether they will or not. I think they win. Miami is favored by 10 in that game. We'll talk to the pick'ems later. But I think Miami absolutely has come on fire here. And once again, we talk about defenses. Their defense has played very, very well and kept them in a lot of games. And they're flying under the radar. Tua Tagovailoa is absolutely coming back into his own here. Once again, he's a second-year guy, that's really blossomed in the second year, and he's getting better, and he's playing.
Well, he went out early with an injury. He's come back. He started getting the hang of things. Timing's coming back.
Yep.
And again, it's one of those guys you drafted probably later in the draft.
Yep.
Like, stick with him now.
Yeah, now he's done really well. He's doing great. I saw my buddy just we're in a breaks group here in town, and he just broke a Miami Dolphins Tua Tagovailoa jersey, authenticated signature. So congratulations to this, guys. And it's neat, man. We do a lot of breaks and some other things like that around here locally for that, but it's awesome, and he's just really, really done well for the Miami Dolphins. Brad, are you in the playoff at all?
I'm in playoffs in both my leagues. Right, I'm playing the number one team because I ended up in 8th on my one league, and he has Jonathan Taylor, and it put a hurting on me. Jonathan got 33 in our league, so I'm down 41-8 right now. And one of my running backs was Stevenson, and he only got me 5 points.
And you're the kicker for Thursday, didn't you?
And I had a kicker.
Yeah.
We both had kickers. His kicker got 8. My kicker got 4.
Yeah.
But the Jonathan Taylor versus Stevenson is the big difference right now.
Yeah. In your other league, you're in it too, or does that start this week?
My other league, I'm in it too. Neither of us has had a player play yet. We're both at 0-0. I'm predicted to lose, but I'm predicted to lose every week.
Yeah,
and I'm in the playoffs.
Yeah, no. I got in the playoffs. It's wild too because I got in the playoffs and I was the 4 seed, even though I lost my first 5 straight games this year, and I got snuck in because I had the most points, even though I was there. And right now, I won the first half of the 2-leg, and she actually didn't set her lineup this week, Brad. And this is what we talk about, everybody. Pay attention to these games. She thought, I don't think she realized it was a Saturday game, and she didn't put Jonathan Taylor in. He was on the bench for her, and it makes me, I'm not mad about it because, of course, I'm on it because I sat Travis Kelce, so don't get mad at me. I started Mark Andrews, so everybody's listening is going to laugh at me on that one.
I need her phone number after the show. I'm going to call her and give her the Last Gasp Fantasy Facebook page because I put everybody, games are Saturday this week.
No, it was wild, man. And so she sat Jonathan Taylor because he was on a bye last week, right? And so she never went in and did it. So, it's hard. It's always, you always pay attention, always look for that, and make sure you're paying attention to win those games. We'll recap those games and when they are coming up and make sure everybody knows about that. But at this point, we're going to take a break, and we'll see you after that. You have a great one.
Gibson Truck World's expert team of sales and service staff will show you why we have been the pioneer of used trucks since 1995. With our 1-year bumper-to-bumper warranty valid across the entire United States, our exclusive 15-day exchange policy, and our $1,000 best price guarantee, it's easy to see why we're the #1 used truck dealership in all of Florida. Please call, visit, or explore our website today to see for yourself why we are the king of trucks.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back, everyone, to the last Gasp Fantasy Sports Podcast, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors. Here located at the Gibson Truck World Studio, Brad. You know, it's great to see it. It's a little bit of a muggy day out here. Normally we start the show off talking about how the weather looks, and it's just a beautiful day here in Gainesville, and I feel like people are like, in Gainesville, is it ever nasty? Well, today it's a little nasty. It's a little dreary out there. Most of us did want to get out of bed after all the holiday parties and things like that. So, you know, it's great that we're here getting up and doing all that, Brad.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day inside of the Spurrier's restaurant. Food's coming out. The chicken and waffles look amazing.
Yeah, that looks really good. Speaking of waffles, Brad, I had a White Elephant gift exchange last night, and I got a mini waffle maker for my kids, and they already used it this morning, making the 4-inch mini waffles and jamming it out this morning. So, you know, those little gifts, you never know if you're going to get them or not. So it's great to do things like that.
Yeah, everybody, Christmas is coming up. Go get some waffle makers.
Yeah, just a reminder, we do not have a show next week. We're a little saddened by that, but it is Christmas, so spend it with your family and time and really enjoy them. And this is what time this year it is, Brad, to spend time with family and friends, man. You wanted to have a shout-out to Archer Electric?
Yeah, it's Tamara's birthday with Archer Electric. Happy birthday, Tamara.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have a wonderful weekend and happy birthday.
Yeah, and thank you for your continued support. That'll turn us into that. So Archer Electric Services Company, Paisano Stone-Fired Pizza, you know, Weeby Marketing, door-to-door transport, Viking Companies, Brad. You know, and then also, you know, our studio sponsor, Gibson Truck World, man, located in Sanford, Florida. The king of the trucks is what I've always called them. You've always looked at it. They're just a great company, and they really do good stuff, man.
Yeah, TJ and I couldn't sit here and do this without our sponsors. So we really want to thank our sponsors and keep them coming back for next year and the year after that and keep this show going.
Yep, so we do appreciate it, Brad. Also, you can find us every Sunday morning live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're there. We're live. Send us your comments in. We've already got 3 or 4 coming in today. We've got them through the week. I mean, I must have got, like I say, Brad, it seems like it's not many. And then you go back and you look at how many you answered. You're like, Wait, there was a lot in here. And then people walking up and talk to you. I was Monday night at Cornhole. I was playing over there at the High Springs Brewery, and next thing you know, there's got 3 or 4 guys. Who do I start here? Who do I sit here? And I'm like, hey, this is what we got. This is the information you know, Brad. And it's great, man.
And that's what's fun, us being in the community here and everything. And if you don't catch us on Facebook, if you don't catch us on YouTube, come into Spurrier's Live. You can sit down at the tables or sit at the bar and sit here and watch us as we do our show.
Yeah, and I'll walk out of here, and someone will be out the door and say, hey, what's going on? How's it going? And we'll talk about it, talk about what the program is, talk about how much fun we have. I know we don't have many shows left for this year, but still come out, check it out, and it's a great time, man.
Yes.
So we're going to go into some injury reports, Brad, start talking about that, going through who's hurt, who's not, and it's going to be wild to understand what's going on right now,
Yeah,
Brad.
well, we got some major COVID injury reports, and we'll go over each one one by one, but you just keep an eye on the players because that COVID thing changes after 2 negative tests. They can come back, all that kind of stuff. So things could change daily with the games, some of the games being pushed back to Tuesday.
And I think that was one of the big things you said, Brad, is that's going to be, I don't think, in the years that I've played fantasy football, which is 20 years, whatever that has been, or however long that's been, that I've ever seen a playoff time for fantasy football be as hard as this year's going to be.
Yes.
Even last year's COVID season thing, whatever it was, you still knew what you were getting. Like now, this is wild how games are played, canceled, people are in and out. The rules are changing daily. I mean, players are getting upset with the NFL, trying to understand, can I play, can I not play? And as a fantasy owner, you're just like, you just got to be prepared, man.
Yes, exactly. We'll start over in the Las Vegas Raiders-Cleveland game.
Yep.
The Raiders are going to miss the tight end Darren Waller again. The Browns had the running back Kareem Hunt out. That's the tight end Harris Bryant is out for the Browns as well.
Yep.
On the COVID report, again, keep an eye on that. That one's changing daily. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum are both on the COVID report right now for the Cleveland.
Yeah, and that's going to be hard to see whether they come back. And with my Pick'em league, I already submitted my league before it was Wednesday night. Thursday before the game has to be submitted. So now you're hearing all this information, and how are you picking your Pick'ems without knowing this stuff? But that's what you're doing. You're going to go.
Flip right now.
It was wild. I did really well last week. I didn't win it, Brad, but it's a coin flip this week, man.
New England, Indianapolis game's already played.
Yeah, game already played.
We're just going to skip that.
And it was a great game. I want to talk about it for a minute. I know
Okay.
I know we're talking about that, but I read something this morning that felt like a playoff game last night.
Well, Indianapolis played like a playoff game, and
Yep.
New England's been one of the hottest teams in the NFL right
Yep.
now, and they really put it to them.
Yeah, and Jonathan Taylor was a stud. They had a block punt for a touchdown. Then New England comes back in the last quarter, like we talked about. So that was a great game, great time, and I really enjoyed that game last night. It was awesome to watch.
Yes. Tennessee Titans versus Pittsburgh Steelers. Titans have their fullback Torrey Carter with an ankle. That's about it on theirs.
Yep.
Steelers, their tight end Kevin Rader's got a hip.
Yep.
But besides that, they're looking pretty decent there.
Yep. That Houston, Texas, Jacksonville Jaguar game, Deshaun Watson is out. So
Still.
I mean, just think about that one. It's wild to see that. Do you think he's going to play this year, Brad, at all?
Not this year.
Done?
I think he's going to be traded after the season, and somebody's going to find themselves a darn good quarterback.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And Carlos Hyde out with a concussion there, man.
Cowboys, Tony Pollard is questionable, that's a big play. Tony has come in for Zeke. Zeke's still banged up, so that's going to be interesting. The Giants, Daniel Jones, their quarterback's out with the neck.
Yep. If you had Pollard on your team, do you start him this week? I mean, it's questionable for me. He coming off an injury, a foot's weird for a running back. I can't start him this week.
Yeah, I would be looking for another option.
Yep.
Now, if you have my team right now that I don't have running backs, I'm going to be starting them.
You're starting him, huh? That makes sense.
But yeah, if there's somebody else out there that has been getting you about equal amount of points here
Yep.
and there, I got to go somewhere else right now.
Nice.
The Jets versus Miami. Not many.
Everything's
injury
looking
reports
good there. We got Waddle out with the COVID.
Oh, Waddle's
out with
that's right.
COVID. So no major issues, but just having problems there.
Arizona versus Detroit. You got DeAndre Hopkins
Yep.
out. James Conner and Zach Ertz are questionable.
Yep. And that was a big blow earlier in the week when they lost DeAndre Hopkins, and he's been such a staple for that offense and just a top 10 receiver every year in and out. And he just hasn't performed that well this year, Brad. And he's just been hurt. He's been in and out. I mean, it's been hard to watch him play.
Yeah, and my prediction on this game is Zach Ertz plays, he's going to be a big player on this game.
Yeah, for sure.
Over with the Lions, DeAndre Swift is out. So that's another big running back out.
Yep.
Wide receiver Josh Reynolds, another good wide receiver, even though it's with Detroit, out.
Yep. For sure.
Or he's questionable. I'm sorry. Reynolds is questionable.
And they've got A.J. Green and rookie Rondell Moore. We're talking about people to pick up right now and look into when these injury reports come out. They think those guys are going to get an uptick with Hopkins out this week. Also, Chase Edmonds is supposed to be back from injury this week. So, when we name guys like these are playmakers that have the potential. We're not. I don't believe that Edmonds is going to have a big day because Connor's been a monster there. But if he comes back, he's going to take touches away from Connor, and so that's a big blow for those people trying to win a playoff series right now.
And Connor's a little banged up himself too.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Carolina, Buffalo. Only person really there is the wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders is out with a knee.
Yeah. Yep, no doubt.
Atlanta, San Francisco. Atlanta's looking pretty good. San Francisco's got Elijah Mitchell, concussion.
A knee, yep.
Questionable.
Yep.
So he could be coming back this week.
No, Elijah Mitchell's got a concussion and he's out.
Oh, is he totally out?
He's
Okay.
out. Yep, so he's out. So don't start him. Go for their backup, Jeff Wilson Jr. Take a look on there. He might be a good option. He didn't do very well. Didn't blow it up last week, Brad, but it's always good to look for it, make sure he's playing. So that's an interesting thing there.
Okay.
Yep.
Cincinnati and Denver. Cincinnati's looking pretty good. Denver's looking pretty good, so you should be pretty good there.
Yep. Find those guys. Everything's looking well.
Green Bay, Baltimore. Both of them look pretty good there, too.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a couple guys that are questionable for the Packers. St. Brown, Valdez Scantling. They're both backs, are maybe questionable and doubtful. So keep an eye on them playing them. We said Valdez Scantling was a good pickup a couple weeks ago. I think it was last week we even talked about maybe him being an option there and thinking about that. So he's looking okay, but he's questionable. If you can find another wide receiver, use somebody else, do that. Find like a Rondell Moore or an A.J. Green. A.J. Green was available on a ton of leagues. And so those are guys that you can always find and pick up later. Some of the other names, Brad, that we talked a little bit about, are KJ Osborne from Minnesota. Talked about he's a name that you could pick up lately right now. Devontae Parker was a name we picked up off the waiver wire, so follow that name. Scantling is questionable. We just talked about that. But Laquan Treadwell's been playing well for Jacksonville. He's a name that might be picked up. I think you're stretching it a lot if you're in the playoff and having to go look for receivers like this. So you should have your team in lineup. But if somebody gets hurt and you need a pickup, just throwing some names out there, Brad, that could really help you off the waiver wire.
Yeah, and just going on through the COVID list real quick. Baltimore Ravens have Sammy Watkins on it. Cardinals have Christian McCaffrey on it.
Yep.
Matt Barkley, which is the backup quarterback. Chicago Bears have a bunch of people out on it. Allen Robinson.
Yeah, just a ton, man. Just a ton.
Yeah. Cincinnati's got a couple of defensive players. Cleveland, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's their whole team, Brad.
It is.
They were worried about having a team to play. That's why they moved it to Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or Monday night, sorry, yeah.
I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've got like 22 players on it, and their head coach.
And that's the thing that's going to be weird about this, Brad, is that how do these teams manage themselves with players, key players? There's only a 52-man roster? Is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so, these guys that are getting sick and hurt, you might not know the names, they might not be everyday names, but they make a key part into these teams. Like, there's players that play in special teams, there's players that play on punt returns, kick returns, that make a big thing. And when you bring a guy in, it might even, the New England game last night, they blocked the punt for a touchdown. You have a guy that's normally supposed to close this A gap or B gap, and he's not used to doing that. That's what happens. A guy runs straight through unimpeded, and they block it, and that could change the game. And that won the game. It was 17-20 until they broke off the run.
Yeah, we usually talk about the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight ends, the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And that's, but you're right. Some of these offensive linemen, defensive linemen are big factors when they're being missed in this. I mean, if I'm Ezekiel Elliott and I like to run off the right shoulder of the tackle and he's missing.
Yeah. I know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're going to take a minute here to thank our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company. They bring you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs. to Gainesville and surrounding communities. Also, Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza. Whether you're looking for a quick lunch or dinner destination to meet up with friends and family, Paisano's is your place. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with delicious dishes, whether in your dining room or ours. Also, want to say a thank you to Gibson Truck World, found in Sanford, Florida. They're here. They're sponsored the studio. Awesome there. To Viking Companies, that group with Spain and all of those guys over there have done a phenomenal job running, helping manage Celebration Point, helping doing all this. They're a great group of guys that did over there, and just hats off to Viking. Also, door-to-door transport and many other, great companies around, man. So, Brad, we'll talk into, we're running through the show, man. 15 minutes left to knock it out. It's blowing through. We love it. We're talking fantasy football. I just, it's exciting. And so we're going to go last week's pick 'em. I did really well, Brad, but I still lost. I went 11-3 and lost. Somebody else went 12-2. Don't know who they were, in the group. But he went 12-2, had a phenomenal week. That 49ers game won him. Otherwise, it would have been a 10-team playoff to go down to points on Monday night's game. And he ended up winning that 49ers game when they came back. When we talked about that, that Cincinnati game, the 49ers game, we didn't even really get into it. But Cincinnati comes back big there at the end and gets a field goal, takes the lead because they were down big. They scored two late touchdowns in regulation, made two big fourth down conversions, and then they give the ball back in 49ers, and Ayuk toes the line and scores on the touchdown, and they win, what was it, 26-23?
Yes.
Yep. So,
but, and what did Cincinnati do? Like you said, they did two fourth down conversions to keep the drive going, and then kick the field goal, which is understandable. Yeah. And I just don't see why Buffalo couldn't take that chance too, instead of giving the ball back to the GOAT.
The GOAT, man, he's the GOAT for a reason. Most touchdown passes now. I mean, I think it was 700 again to just last week or something like that. And so it's wild. Brad, we've already know what happened at Kansas City. We're gonna go to pick'ems now. We already know what happened in Kansas City, LA. LA was in charge of that game. Kansas City came back and took it at the very end. They covered the spread. Last night's game, you had New England at Indy. It was only 1.5 points, which was Indy was actually favored in that game, which is surprising. They ended up winning by, I think, 9, or it was 3, and then they got a touchdown, so they won by 10. And so Indy won and covered the spread. We're going to ask the Vegas-Cleveland game, Brad. Vegas is getting 6.5. Who are you taking?
I mean, right now I've got to take Vegas with all the COVID issues in Cleveland. Now, if that changes, they could change the game. Right now I see Nick Chubb getting a whole bunch of yards running in this game, and Vegas outscoring them in the air.
I want to say Vegas is going to do better than last week's showing against Kansas City. I think Cleveland knows they have the potential to get into the playoffs, and they want to win. And so that game was moved to Monday night. I think Cleveland comes out and handles this and wins. They should win.
Well, my only problem is if you have your third-string quarterback in, and you got all these people that are out, they want to win, but do they have the talent on the field to win? Yeah,
like you're saying, it's going to be a slow game. I don't think there's going to be a high shootout by any means. If you got the under, take the under on that game. Yeah. It's my lock of the week. Take the under on the Vegas-Cleveland game.
Yeah, again, I think Chubb's going to have a lot of points in fantasy, running the ball. That's the only thing they got left. So.
Yep. We got Carolina at Buffalo. Buffalo is getting 10.5, or giving up 10.5, excuse me. I think if Buffalo loses this, they're out of the playoffs. This is a game they can't lose.
No, I agree. Buffalo should have this one. Cam Newton is not going to beat Buffalo.
Nope, I think Buffalo handles that, and they get back on the win column after some tough games against Tampa and some other games like that. So I think Buffalo comes back, gets on the win column, and is fighting to still be in the playoff hunt. You got the Jets at Miami. Miami is giving up 8.5. I think we both agree Miami should win that game. They're looking healthier. They're getting better players back. I think they're going to do well. Their Gaskins is playing well as a running back.
Yeah, if Miami loses to the Jets and has the Jacksonville loss, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. So.
Could you imagine a team making the playoffs, losing to Jacksonville and the Jets, and still making the playoffs?
I mean, next they lose to Houston too.
Yeah, right. So I mean, Freddie's team right there is absolutely in there. So there you go, Freddie. Fight for the Miami Dolphins. There, I got a couple other buddies that are Miami fans, so it's great to see them. Washington at Philadelphia. Washington is getting 4.5 at Philadelphia. Who do you like in that game?
This is going to be one of the better games of the week that really is going to mean nothing. I'm going to take Washington.
And so I'm taking Philly at home. If there's ever a coin flip for me, I always take the home team. For whatever reason, they always seem to do better at home with most of these teams. I think my team is undefeated at home this year, so I get to brag a little bit about Tampa Bay Bucks. I think Washington surprised everybody with being able to win a few games there, Brad, and look like a playoff team. And now they're starting to show that was either a fluke or people found out about them. And then they played well last week. I guess I shouldn't be saying that.
I mean, they're not eliminated from the playoffs yet,
Yeah.
so they do have a little bit to play for. But if they lose this, they're done.
And then you have Arizona at Detroit. I don't think that game is very close. Even though Detroit would have been playing well and doing some things, they got their win. I think Arizona wins this one handily, and they take the second half off.
Arizona is going to win this game. I will take the 13.5 and take Detroit.
Oh, really?
In a poll.
Wow. So I mean, that's great. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. You might be right there, Brad. But I think if it gets big and early, if Arizona's up early big, it's not going to be close. That game will be out of reach real quick. You got Dallas at the Giants. I'm not giving you the option here because I know who you're going to pick. I like the Dallas Cowboys in this game as well. The Giants are just the Giants. That's all I'm going to say. It's an interdivision game. 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Washington, Philly, Dallas, and the Giants and how they were going to be. They had to play each other and what was going on. I think Dallas wins that game hands down, and the Giants go home and just lick their wounds and try it again.
Yes.
We have Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Here it is, Brad, AFC battle. Tennessee's 9-4. Pittsburgh's on the edge of the playoffs right now at, 6-6-1 or 6-7-1 or something like that. They've got to win a game here if they want to be in the playoffs.
It's a must-win for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I think they pull it off.
You think Pittsburgh beats Tennessee? I wouldn't be surprised, but we just talked about it, Brad. If Pittsburgh plays like they did in the fourth quarter against Minnesota, they're going to smoke Tennessee this week.
Right.
So if you're Mike Tomlin, you say you got to start out just the way you left that and start those guys expecting to be a playoff run now. And if they're not trying to do it right now, Brad, then they're really not trying. I don't know how you could talk up any team to go, hey, you got smoked the first half, 3 quarters, and then you dominated the last quarter there.
I think if Pittsburgh could go get a Deshaun Watson, a quarterback,
Yeah.
a little bit more
Could you imagine Deshaun and
in Najee.
that would be nice. Yeah. I mean, because Roethlisberger's done. He said he's done after this year, right?
Yes.
I think he's done after this year. He didn't sign.
Roethlisberger's just not mobile. He's at
Right.
the time in his career that
Yeah.
he's ready to retire.
That would be a great fit, in my opinion. But I mean, that's a great organization. They have stability. They have structure. They have always had what they have, and they have a great fan base. And they don't take crap from anything. And so, if he went there, that'd be a big pickup for him, in my opinion.
It could make them a playoff team.
Yep, right off the
immediately.
bat.
Yeah.
Houston at Jacksonville, 3.5. That's going to be a barn burner, Brad. 3-0, 3-0 score. You think it'll be more than that?
I'm going to pull for Jacksonville. we got to have one chance this year that they're going to actually play a good game and win. I'm going to go Jacksonville.
And I told you this. I'm never picking Jacksonville again on a sheet. I picked them a bunch early, never picked them again. I'm thinking Houston by 20.
By 20.
I don't care what. It could be Houston by 50. Jacksonville's going to lose this game, and they're just going to make misery even worse for people, Brad. That's what's going to happen. Atlanta at San Francisco. Atlanta's getting 8.5 going into the 49ers. There's no way this game is 8.5. This game's close as anything. I know Vegas has it, and they're good, and that. I think this is a very close game. I think it comes down to the last second, and I think it's a fourth quarter score, and whoever is that one scoring will be the one.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco has played a great game last week.
Yep.
Atlanta's hot on the road. We just talked about that. It's going to be a great game. You said Pitts, so you're taking Pitts for a touchdown at least. I got to stay with San Francisco on this one.
Nice. Cincinnati at Denver. Cincinnati is getting 1.5 going into Denver. Denver's a playoff team currently. Cincinnati's trying to be a playoff team. Joe Burrow has been played well. Jamar Chase, we don't say his name enough on the show. I mean, he has a top 5 receiver right now as a rookie, and he is fighting for Rookie of the Year this year. I mean, there's a couple of them out there, but he is, if he's not one, he's right behind it.
And you're going to see Burrow Chase for the victory.
Yeah, I picked Cincinnati over Denver in that game because I think that they need to win. I think Denver is going to be just a little bit slow, but I agree with you on that pick, Brad. Green Bay at Baltimore. Baltimore is getting 6.5. If you'd asked me this game in Week 4, I'd have said Baltimore all day. Green Bay all day long here.
Yes, I agree 100% with you.
Now, here's the question. Here's a question I got during the week. A.J. Dillon or the other running back for them? There's 2 running backs for Green Bay. Mm-hmm. Which one would you start?
Dillon's been hot, so I mean, I got to go with Dillon.
Yeah, I mean, he's been really good. We were talking about it because he's been stealing the catches and kind of taken away from the other one, and it's been a brutal there. Do you start both? Do you start one? They've handcuffed each other, and so it's been interesting about that. We've got Seattle at the Rams. Rams are giving up 7.5.
Rams cover.
And I think they win that game handily. I think Stafford has a monster game. At least I'm hoping for my fantasy football team that he has a monster game and that they do very well. You've got New Orleans at Tampa. 10.5 is the spread on that game, Brad.
New Orleans plays Tampa tough every single game. I don't care what's going on, but I do pick Tampa, just not to cover.
Tampa coming back last week when they could have just packed their bags up on the way the Bills came back and did that really sets the tone moving forward. And that was their hardest game they had left on the schedule, in my opinion. They went out, they won it. Now they're fighting for the first seed in the playoffs. They're tied with Green Bay, I think.
Yeah, it's Green Bay.
Green Bay, Arizona, and them are all tied. I think Green Bay's leading the tiebreaker.
They get the tiebreaker.
But at that point, right now, it's anybody's game. If Tampa can win out, they'll be fine, and they'll be number one seed. They'd love that first round bye if they could get it for Tom. But I think you're right, Brad. Tampa wins that easy, no problem. And then last but not least, you've got Minnesota at Chicago. It's only 3.5. I don't know why, because Chicago's COVID list was pretty big. Minnesota is coming off some games there. I think they're going to win. I think they win handily with Dalvin Cook and that team. They beat Steelers last week.
Cook and Cousins are going to both have good games. Minnesota wins that game.
Yeah, and so, Brad, we've got a couple minutes left of the show here, man. We always like to talk about some positivity and bringing some things into the world. Find your local Toys for Tots. That's one of the things that I was going to talk about today. I don't have a direct team where I'm saying that this organization does that, but that organization itself, Toys for Tots, there's one at probably every restaurant you go to. Help kids, help families that don't have things during this Christmas holiday. It's about giving. It's about taking care of family. It's about taking care of communities. If you have any old used toys, if you have any things like that are in good shape, take them somewhere, because there's a kid everywhere that needs something for Christmas that's not getting something, Brad. And so it's one of those things that, your simple gesture of kindness can really make somebody else's day. So please, please, please try to reach out and do whatever you can for somebody around.
If every person just brought one toy to somebody that needs, this world would be a great place.
Yeah. And so when you think about that, this is a time, we talked about it, Brad, that you get to spend with family, and you get to spend with your relatives, and you get to spend with people from out of town, and you go see people. And, one thing that gets lost is how much travel people are having to do, and they get frustrated, and we're behind schedule. But just think about who you're getting to spend it with. I mean, that's what people have to realize. Don't worry about, you got to drive 2 hours there, and you got to do this, and I haven't seen this person, and I'm upset that they did that. Put all that stuff aside, man, and just really enjoy being with your family and your friends. You got a party to go to here in a couple days that's going to be a good time. I'm going to Universal, and then driving back to Sanford, and then driving back to Orlando, and then coming back to Gainesville, all within a couple period. But it's great.
And enjoy your family, and understand all the mother-in-laws get to go back home. So,
well, and that's the thing too, Brad. Sometimes family's not just directly related. Like, you got a whole group of guys around here and family that you've met over years, and that's your family. You get to hang out with them, and there might not be directly related, but those are people you meet and care and are there for you every day.
Yes, family is not just blood. Family is who you love, who you care about. People that are in your lives that affect your lives every single day. So reach out to those people. Tell them you love them. Tell them that you wish them a Merry Christmas. And, just enjoy the time that you get to spend with all your friends, family, and loved ones.
And the thing is, with my family, we always talk fantasy football. Yes. It's just like Thanksgiving. It's football talks half the time. Where's your team doing? How you doing? I beat you this week. It's trash talk. I trash talked you here. That's the same right here, because now you're in the playoff or you're not. And if you're beating them in the playoff, that's just a one notch on the belt, a little higher, man.
It's funny because my parents watch this show. They knew nothing about fantasy football. Hopefully after this year,
they're going to
tell me a little bit about fantasy football.
And that's it, Brad. And we're going to wrap it up here from the Last Gasp Fantasy Podcast. Find us anytime, every Sunday morning here, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Have a Merry Christmas.